What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, Andrew Cooper, Britt, Flynn. And guys, as I was watching that montage, that beautiful intro done by Brian Burns, shout out to him for putting that together. All I can say is I'm very, very thankful that he apparently put me inside a Ravens uniform. He did not superimpose my head onto Aaron Rodgers' body, because if that were the case, I would be sitting it all out now for the rest of the season here on Alarm Fantasy Football. Holy hell, week 1 is now officially in the books. And I mean, I don't know. Can I sum up the commentary right now with just a...
Yep.
Nightmare.
It was rough. The amount of expletives coming out of my mouth when I was just pacing the house yesterday during last night's game was just awful. Probably would have been X-rated and not even got an R rating. It was just awful. It sucks. It's horrible.
And the thing is, even people are like, oh, like some of my Patriots fan friends are like, oh yeah, the Jets, they beat the Bills and then they lost their quarterback. And I'm like, but as a general football fan, you realize this is terrible for the league and terrible for everyone. It's above and beyond. Like nobody wants to win because the other guy snapped his Achilles. You want to win because you put together the better team, right? So it just awful, man. Just awful.
Just an absolute nightmare. If you missed the news, Adam Schefter tweeted it out a while ago. A torn Achilles for Aaron Rodgers. He's done for the season. We'll get into that. You've got a whole article over on fantasyalarm.com done by John and Pemba, kind of citing certain things, talking about the Jets' odds to win the Super Bowl and how those tumbled down. But here we go. We're talking fantasy here. We're not talking betting. And let's do it. I mean, I'll start with you, Coop. How about the value of Zach Wilson now moving forward? Obviously, he's the new starting quarterback for the team. And listen, he's got weapons. He's got a great supportive ground game to lean on. What's Zach Wilson's value to you as far as this season goes now?
Yeah, in single QB leagues, I'm not super interested, but in every super flex league, you have, I mean, just when you start doing the math, especially on 10 or 12 team leagues, you have those teams that didn't quite get the guys they wanted. They don't have 2 studs at quarterback. So those guys need to be dropping 50% or more of their budget. And I guarantee out there are people that said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to punt quarterback and I'll spend up on the first one that becomes available. If you were that team and you literally only have one viable quarterback, or you have Rodgers and only one other guy, you might have to start thinking about dropping a hundo if you're going fab, like dropping 100% of the fab. Is that something, like, let's say your quarterbacks were Rodgers and Geno Smith and you have no one else. Do you drop 100 spot right now to get Zach Wilson?
I don't think you can drop a full 100. I mean, I'm not going to blow my entire budget right there on Zach Wilson. You have to try and figure out how to stretch that budget for the duration of the season. Yes, it's a problem, but let's also face facts. In a super flex league, you don't have to start a QB in that second spot. So you kind of have to keep yourself, reined in a little bit and understand that dropping the full 100, like if you're dropping the full 100 right here going into week 2, that better be a league winning player. And I'm not going to say that Zach Wilson is a league winning player. I think that, if you're looking at some shallow leagues and maybe somebody left Dalvin Cook in the draft, or drop Dalvin Cook, or might drop Dalvin Cook after Breece Hall's performance, maybe that's somebody that you're going to spend up for. Britt, talk to me here about the Jets ground game now. For trade purposes, value purposes, like how do you view this? We saw Breece Hall look absolutely spectacular yesterday. Dalvin Cook clearly served as the complimentary back, which went against obviously what we were told by the coaching staff and by the beat writers there. But give me a value assessment knowing what the Jets have to deal with now.
Yeah, I think although Breece Hall looked great last night, that wasn't necessarily the game plan. Now that teams get to scheme up a defensive game plan against the run, I don't think that they're necessarily going to respect the pass, and you're going to be seeing a lot more stacked boxes. That offensive line is what caused Aaron Rodgers to get hurt in the first place. He was pressured on all 3 of his dropbacks, And that offensive line couldn't stop anybody. So if they're stacking the box, I don't care how good Brees Hall is, he's not going to be able to get through. They are going to have to really be a little bit creative in his usage and try to run him to the outside, kind of like how Dallas did with Tony Pollard last season. But I think his value takes a tumble. Obviously, Dalvin Cook's value takes a tumble because I really don't think that defenses are going to respect their run game.
So you're out now. So I mean, let's talk about then obviously the receiving core. Garrett Wilson, considered a top play back end of the first round in most drafts, some early second round plays over there. The Jets are going to have to learn to throw the ball. We heard some decent reports about Zach Wilson in the preseason learning behind Aaron Rodgers. So I guess really the question is, are we just out completely on Jets?
I'm not out completely, but the ceiling is definitely very, very low for Garrett Wilson. I mean, had he not caught that really errantly thrown ball in the end zone, he would have scored single-digit points last night. And that is not something that we're looking for with a guy that we drafted in the end of the first or beginning of the second to be our wide receiver one. So his value definitely takes a dip. I'm not saying to completely discount him, bench him, anything like that, but I think that some waiver wire moves and possibly some trade moves are definitely on the table because your team's not as strong as it was even 2 days ago.
Yeah, and the hard part of those moves is that everyone thinks you're up to something. If the moment the quarterback gets hurt, when you try and trade the wide receiver, everyone is like, "I know what you're doing." You might be able to move him just for the fact that they both looked great. Like when, the catch was awesome and people remember that, and the run, but Brees Hall looked amazing. I know he got caught from behind there, but he almost took one 90 yards to the house, and that wasn't his only good play on the day. So if you can move those guys laterally for someone who you had ranked very similarly, just as good. I mean, maybe Garrett Wilson for a Jalen Waddle who didn't have a good week. If you can get away with it, I think I would do it. But otherwise, I think people are going to look at you and say, I'm not trading for those guys because everyone's just thinking about Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't sell low. If you can get away with a lateral move or somebody that you would have taken in the third round or second round instead, then maybe do it. But otherwise, I don't know. Everyone's just they're gonna look at you and say, "Hey, you're not gonna trick me, man. I obviously know what happened."
No, you're definitely not going to be tricking anybody, and people are obviously going to be suspicious. I think one of the things that we do need to pay attention to was the fact that Garrett Wilson still won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, and he didn't have a quarterback. Mike White was in there for how many games? Not a whole hell of a lot. You had a lot of Zach Wilson there for Garrett Wilson. So, and then Brees Hall for the same token there as well. Minor improvements to the offensive line, which is now healthy. Now, granted, their pass blocking last night did not look good up against that Bills pass rush, but I just, I worry that too many people are going to panic. I worry, look, I see a question in chat here from Blurpy. Any trade ideas? And he's listing his whole team. I mean, listen, you've got what you got right now. I'm not going to sit here and break down your entire team here, wondering if there's a trade that you should be making. What you should be thinking about is, okay, what holes do I need to fill in on my roster right now? And that is part and parcel one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I think that everybody, obviously, the overreaction to week one is insanity. And I've got people who are messaging me left and right. Should I drop this guy for that guy? Should I drop that guy for this guy? Nobody's saying, should I drop T. Higgins or Joe Burrow? Why are we sitting here focusing so much on other players who struggled in week one? And that's a huge issue. Like, I'm looking at his team right now. Garrett Wilson, Travis Etienne, Tyler Higbee, Deebo Samuel, Rashad White. These aren't guys who had a great first week. So, what are we doing? I mean, it's not, to me, it's not, I don't know. Like, you guys tell me how you handle waivers, because for me, I drafted my team. I made my late round picks and built my bench with guys who I believe will succeed this year, will have some upside. All right. If they didn't perform in week one, I don't give a shit. It happens. We see it all the time. So why am I going to sit there and rotate out guys who I genuinely believed in when I drafted because all of a sudden, somebody has like a hot week one. Rotating your bench like that, you're just going to drop somebody that you probably shouldn't be dropping in the first place. So, Coop, how do you handle when you're looking at waivers right now? Obviously, each player is on a case-by-case basis, but from an overall standpoint, are you somebody who likes to constantly churn over your bench?
No. And I'll tell you, Blurpy's team is a good example of what you're talking about, Howard, because look at the, Jerry Jeudy and Christian Watson. We haven't even seen those guys play. But I will tell you what, for Jerry Jeudy's case, Marvin Mims he played like a half snap share. Those other guys did nothing. So you got to be feeling good about Jeudy. And Watson, Jordan Love looked good. So even though we haven't seen those guys play, you can't move on from them. What I do, Howard, is when I do my draft, I'm already thinking about what I might do on waivers. When I go yin and yang tight end, I already know that I might need to swap out my tight end because I waited on tight end. Same thing. If I waited on running back, if I went 0 RB, I already know now I need to focus on RB. But I'm not going to take the guys that I believed in originally and ship them out. I look at what I need. Do I need a running back to start right now for me this week? Did I have J.K. Dobbins? If that's the case, then I'm spending differently. Do I have 5 running backs that are ready to go and I'm just stashing the best upside play? Then I'm going to pick up a different guy off waivers. I always looked at it in that context. But no, Howard, anybody I drafted that I believe in for the long term, unless something incredibly alarming happened this week, I'm not moving on from them. Like, obviously, you got to drop J.K. Dobbins. And, if a guy that you were hoping was going to play a ton played 3 snaps, you drop that guy. But for the most part, I'm not letting people take advantage of the things that I believed in all season by just giving up guys now. Right. So I'm with you.
How about you? How do you handle waivers?
Yeah, I think that unless somebody is injured or you need an immediate replacement, that you kind of have to stand pat with who you drafted. Like, my example is Devontae Smith last season. In week 1, I think he put up like 3.6 PPR points or something like that in a very high scoring game against the Lions. Can you imagine if you had panicked on Devonta Smith and dropped him or traded him when he finished out as a wide receiver 1? You've got to let this game play out unless somebody is just completely crapping the bed, injured, does not look like they're going to have a role in this system. And even then, I would caution against that. You've got to just stand firm and let things play out the way that they should. As far as dropping, 50, 60, 70% of your fab on a player who's most likely just going to be a fill-in and was a flash in the pan in the first place, you can't do that. That sets you up for failure during bye weeks. And if you make it to the championship and playoffs, sets you up for a lot of failure then.
I think a perfect example of everything that you just said is in Ann Dunn's question here in the chat. Her running backs are Eckler, Sanders, Javonte, Charbonnet, Bigsby. Brees is sitting on the waiver wire right now, but she won't be able to get him. But does she need to drop somebody to go after Joshua Kelly? Now, the fact that she's got Eckler kind of gives Joshua Kelly a little bit of a boost in value for me, only as a handcuff, though. It's not as anything, I'm not going to start him. I'm going to start Eckler every week. I mean, why am I going to start, Joshua Kelly off of this one good game that he had? You have to see the way things develop. But I'm not going to drop Sanders. I'm certainly not going to drop Javonte Williams, not based on his usage. Charbonnet is he's a guy that we have to watch to see what happens in Seattle. And Tank Bigsby, who got into the end zone and showed, the Jags showed you how they're going to utilize Tank Bigsby and where they're going to utilize him the most. And that was inside that green zone there. So for me, I'm not dropping any of these running backs to go and pick up Joshua Kelly. I can understand being nervous about Eckler staying healthy, but, feel like there's got to be somebody else. How about you guys, Coop?
Yeah, I mean, I look at Joshua Kelly. I'm only going crazy to make that move if they come out and say Eckler with the ankle is just flat out for multiple weeks. Otherwise, just hang with what you have. I mean, you drafted these guys for a reason. And you got to remember with guys like Charbonnet and Bigsby and the wide receivers as well, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. How many people were dropping him as a rookie before he actually did anything? Odell Beckham Jr. He was hurt. He had a hurt hamstring. He did nothing for a couple of weeks. Mike Evans did nothing as a rookie for a couple of weeks. And then those guys absolutely blew up. David Johnson was returning kicks. He wasn't even playing. And then he returned a kick for a touchdown. And they were like, hey, looks like we have something here. So guys like Bigsby and Charbonnet, if you believe in the talent, you definitely don't want to drop them right now before you wait and see what they actually are, because they're going to play. Absolutely. And we even saw with Jahmyr Gibbs, Dan Campbell came out and said, hey, the plan was this guy's a rookie. It's his first game. Obviously, we're not going to give him a million touches. The same goes for all these other rookies. The coach doesn't have to say it. That's often the case with these young guys. So stay with the young guys and see what happens. To tell you the truth on Joshua Kelly, he's an interesting ad, of course, with the injury and everything, but I've seen Joshua Kelly. This guy is not going to move the earth, okay?
No, he's not. I mean, listen, if you've got a backup tight end that you don't need, if you've got a fifth or sixth wide receiver that, may or may not ever see the light of day in your starting lineup, then you can drop one of them. But, you can't drop. I mean, unless your league has one of those idiotic rules where you can't have more than 5 running backs on a roster, which I've been dealing with questions with that too. And it's like, all right, well, this is what I think you should do. And you should also petition your commissioner to get that stupid rule off there. You should be able to just build your team the way you want to build your team. So, all right, well, so we're going to talk waivers through here. So if you guys have some questions, obviously put them in the chat. We really appreciate it. If you're watching us on Fantasy Alarm or Better Sports Network's YouTube page, that you smash that like and subscribe button, and then always kind of get ready and hit that notify me button so that you get the alerts as to where we are. Lots of week 1 stuff that we're going to have to kind of go through here, sort things out, but we're hoping that you're going to get you guys set and squared away for your waiver wire work. Now, also, guys, geez, man, there's so much that I have to run through in my head here. It's a lot to keep track of. So I'll just stay here. I'll stay with the show sheet that we all built, and I'll go off on my tangents afterwards here. So we've given you our thoughts here on the Jets. Let's talk about the Ravens now. Let's talk about the fact that J.K. Dobbins is lost for the season. Justice Hill had some moments there, and he scored 2 touchdowns. Gus Edwards, though, still saw a significant number of touches and workload there as well. So what do you guys think when you're talking about this Ravens backfield? Do we have a preference between Justice Hill or Gus Bus, as everybody likes to call him?
I think it's the Gus Bus for me. I think just in terms of efficiency, I know that everybody's looking at that box score. They're looking at that final stat line and saying, well, Justice Hill scored more fantasy points, so he's the one that I'm going to target. But if you look at his efficiency, 8 attempts for 9 yards. At least Edwards had 32 yards on his 8 attempts. He's got a history with this team. He's had historically a pretty good yards per carry. I think he's going to emerge as the lead back. But honestly, I would look for somebody outside of this organization to replace J.K. Dobbins, because I think it's going to be a complete committee situation. And you're going to get frustrated by all the touchdown vultures, whether it is from Hill or from Edwards or even Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, typically, if this were a quarterback like Jared Goff or Mac Jones, and we knew the dump downs were coming, we would skew towards Justice Hill. But this team was one of the bottom teams in throwing to the running back. We know Lamar Jackson doesn't like to do that. So if I'm going to go with anyone, I'll go with Gus, who, he's a 5-yard per carry player, one of only 5 or 6 in the entire league for his career to have 5 yards per carry, and he weighs 240 pounds. So at least if Lamar Jackson, I know Justice Hill got the touchdowns there, but if there's a pass interference in the end zone, I'm sending Gus down to punch it in. So I think I like Gus better, but I'm with Britt that I'd rather go for some of these other guys that we'll talk later on the show in terms of options, right? You don't always have to replace your injured running back with his backup. You can replace him with somebody else's backup or somebody else's starter.
Well, so what are we looking at? I mean, we could skip around here. We don't have to just promote that later. If we're talking let's talk running back waivers right now. Let's see who the names are that we like. And Blurpy, Kareem Hunt to the Ravens. Who the hell knows? I've got it on good report here from the front office of Cleveland that the reason that they told Kareem Hunt to go spit was because he clearly lost a step last year. He lost a step in camp last year. He lost a step and he didn't, deliver in the beginning of the season. They continuously phased him out of the offensive scheme in Cleveland last year. And with the exception of a couple of teams kicking the tires on him here in the offseason, it did not yield anything fruitful. So to say that Kareem Hunt could be an option in Baltimore, I mean, who the hell knows? But if Cleveland turned around and is, and there are reports that he is not the same player that you want, then I don't know where I'm going through with that. I'm not going to sit there and pick up Kareem Hunt as a speculative ad at all. So,
right. Just the fact that the Ravens signed Melvin Gordon and elevated him from the practice squad instead of signing Hunter Fournette has me a little worried. Those are actually I have those as my waiver wire traps this week, like chasing free agent running backs, thinking that they're just going to get signed, I don't know, like tomorrow and start for one of these teams. It's not going to happen like that.
Well, and Harbaugh even came out and said that they're not perusing the free agent pool, that they're going to go with who they have. So
there you go.
So who are the running backs on the waivers that we are eyeballing this week? Then who's some of the names that you guys are targeting?
So I am looking at Josh Kelly. I know that Coop said that we've seen Josh Kelly play and that he's not an earth mover, but I think with Kellen Moore there, we kind of saw a double-headed backfield, similar to what we saw with Zeke and Pollard. I really liked his usage. I liked his efficiency. I think, especially with Eckler out and having potentially that ankle injury where he's going to miss time, I feel like he has the clearest pathway to starting time than anybody else on this list and who's available.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. It all depends where you're at with your team. If you lost J.K. Dobbins and you need someone to start for you right now, I'm with Britt. It's Joshua Kelly, especially with Austin Eckler dealing with this ankle injury. If they're going to use the split and he's got the ankle injury, that split's only going to be better for now. So if you need a guy right now to start, go with Joshua Kelly. If you just ended up with somebody on your bench that you're just going to drop them no matter what, and you want to add somebody, the guy, and this is especially true if you already have 3 or 4 running backs that you like and you're going to start, the stash that I like is Roschon Johnson, because I look around this league and there's not many starting jobs that are kind of up for grabs, but this is one. All 3 running backs played like 20 something snaps. They all split, but Roschon looked the best. He got 7 targets, which leads the league for running backs. There's a possibility over the course of this year that he just is the best running back and takes that job. So I like adding him if I can afford to hide somebody on the bench for the most upside. If I need to start somebody right now, though, I'm with you that you got to go with a guy like Josh Kelly.
How much hiding are we doing with and stashing with Roschon Johnson? So he actually had 39% of the snaps.
I know.
That was more than Khalil Herbert, who had 36%, Deonta Foreman 28%, and then Blasingame. I can't believe that he even saw the field, but 9% of the snaps there. And it was the targets were a big deal for Roschon Johnson. That's where he got all of his value. I mean, he really, he showed up there. So the question is, do we look to that as being that possible starter in the sense that, I mean, the Bears, whose defense is super weak. We know that they've got a game up against Tampa Bay this week. And, I don't love Tampa Bay by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what they did or what happened in that game, that they, got the upset victory. But to know that, the Bears could be in a situation where they are passing a lot more. If Justin Fields is looking for somebody, is that man Roschon Johnson?
I don't want to go that far. I feel like it's much more of a committee that DJ Moore was covered by Jair Alexander and Fields was hesitant to pass to him. I don't necessarily know that that's going to be the situation against Tampa Bay this week. Justin Jefferson is obviously Justin Jefferson, but we saw him go off against Tampa Bay's secondary. We saw Jordan Addison go off against Tampa Bay's secondary. So I feel like the passes, when they happen, are going to be targeted towards the wide receivers a lot more than they are towards Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not willing to start him right away, but I'm kind of with Dustin that Roschon should be added and the takeover's coming. So honestly, there's just so few opportunities to find somebody that could emerge as the starting back. Like I said, nobody really like it takes you a couple weeks to realize like, oh, wait a second, Alvin Kamara is something. Wait a second, David Johnson is going to be something that I'd rather be out in front of it than find out next week that he's getting 50% of the snaps. And now I've already missed the boat. So for me, I'm stashing him, but I don't know if I can trust him to start him just yet.
Okay. Let me clean up the chat real quick. Ann Dunn says, would drop Dulcich over any of the running backs? But I have Kelsey. I think Kelsey plays this week in week 2. I would definitely drop Dulcich, who's out for multiple weeks. We've already heard that. If you want to add Joshua Kelly, I think that's probably the move that you need to make there. And pick up Hayden Hurst or Hunter Henry. I'll vote for Hurst only because, Henry's got Gesicki and there's, Devontae Parker's coming back and we don't know, but Hurst or Henry, Coop?
So I do like Hurst. Just the other part of it is that you got to, with 1 week sample size, you got to look at the narrative of the game. The Patriots had 80 offensive snaps, which the team that led the league this week was the Rams with 81. And the average for these games is like 65 or so. So just flat, like forget the narrative of the game. The team flat out ran 15 more offensive plays than they normally would. So that does have me wondering if Hunter Henry is always going to be like this, or if this is just one of those weeks. Whereas Hayden Hurst with that team, we don't know how it shakes out. He could just flat out be the top target, and he actually oddly didn't play as much as he could have. And I think given how much the QB liked him, I think we see more Hayden Hurst. So I think there's more upside there for Hayden Hurst. It's very close though for me.
Britt, how about you?
Yeah, it's really close for me too, but I'm still going Henry here. I feel like Kendrick Bourne is going to be more affected by Devontae Parker coming back than Henry is. And historically, Bill O'Brien's offenses have leaned into the tight ends, even making multiple tight ends relevant. Henry also has a relationship with Mac Jones. We've heard the breakfast narrative, the best friend narrative, all of that thing. And I think that this year is the year that resurges. So I'm leaning towards Henry, although I do like Hurst as the wide receiver situation in Carolina is just kind of messy.
Yeah, I'll give you one thing on Hunter Henry. I thought he was going to be the inline guy that they asked to stay in and block. Dude blocked on one pass play and ran like 50 routes. So when they're throwing the ball, Hunter Henry's running around. So maybe Bill O'Brien is thinking, 2011 Rob Gronkowski was tight end 1 and Aaron Hernandez was tight end 3. Maybe he's like, hey, you know what? You're not Gronk and you're not Tom Brady, but we're just going to do our best to pretend.
All right. So it sounds like a little play for Henry here over Hurst, not by a huge margin, but that's kind of where we're leaning right now. Antonio Lopez says, I need running backs right now. Should I use my waiver claim for Joshua Kelly, or should I wait and see who's left over between Kelly, Gainwell, and Kyron Williams? Well, we've already talked about Kelly. Gainwell, a little banged up right now with a rib injury, but I mean, he's still outsnapped and outplayed DeAndre Swift, and I don't even know if Rashad Petty was at the game at all here.
Healthy scratch, yeah.
But let's talk about Kyron Williams. Let's talk about his role in Los Angeles. Kind of looked like a little bit more than just a complimentary role for him versus Cam Akers. Britt, Kyron Williams, you did the waiver wire article over at fantasyalarm.com. You guys should all check that out. Britt, Kyron, what do you think?
I still like Josh Kelly over Kyron Williams. I like that offense better. Kyron Williams' efficiency also just wasn't that great. This was a blowout. So the the snap split, if I can talk, should kind of be taken with a grain of salt because they were blowing out the Seahawks. I like the efficiency of Josh Kelly better. Kyron Williams is fine, but that Rams offensive line also has a lot of problems. They have a tougher schedule. I don't like his long-term outlook.
Okay. Beautiful. I love that. Coop, final thoughts here.
I just like to be excited about players that are exciting. Kyron Williams, to me, he had his agent when they were going to do the combine, his agent should have faked his death and like hid him in a closet or something, because he went there and weighed like 190 pounds. He ran super slow. He probably would have gone like the first or not the first round, but they were saying he's Britt. Remember they were saying like second or third round pick, and he went like the 5th. So it's hard to get excited for a player that I just don't like his profile. But I mean, hey, if he's going to be running routes, then maybe, but I don't know. I can't get on board. It's hard.
Okay. Beautiful. Corrupted TV in the house here. How are we doing? I thought you were a porn bot at first, but it looks like you got some questions here to ask anyway. Christian Kirk or Marquise Brown for week 2. This is not the time to even remotely think about a start sit. Neither one of these teams play on the Thursday night game. There's zero chance that you need to be making a start sit decision here on a Tuesday. So stop worrying about Kirk being a bust in week 1. Marquise Brown wasn't some great shakes either. I mean, it's a crappy situation there. Let's worry about that when we need to worry about that. Today,
I like that response though. I like that response. Nah, fam, I'm real. I promise.
Oh,
So
we appreciate
not
that,
a porn bot, Howard.
Well, you know what? I'd rather you be a porn bot than to ask a start sit question on a Tuesday. I'm not gonna lie. Like, who's setting their lineup on a Tuesday?
You're just gonna tinker with it.
I'm excited, dude. I'm excited.
Is that a profile picture now that you're sliding in there, Corrupted TV?
That's Twitch. You can get crazy on Twitch. So, yeah. We're glad to have you, Corrupted TV. We'll be here all week, so plenty of time for start sits.
Yeah, start sits. We'll deal with that Wednesday, Thursday show, even, for crying out loud. All right, let's kind of keep going through here. We know you're not locking it in. You shouldn't be locking it in. All right, let's talk more in the way of picking up those pieces from the week here. What do we got? Mark Andrews is back at practice. Yay. Gainwell with a rib injury. All right, so if Gainwell doesn't go, like, is it DeAndre Swift season? Like, how do we assess this Eagles backfield? Who wants to start that?
It is stay away with a 10-foot stick for me. I don't want any part of this Eagles backfield. I didn't really want a part of it going into this season. I'm sure Gainwell was fine where you got him in ADP, but now it looks too messy, and it's just going to piss you off when somebody vultures another touchdown. I want no part of it.
You got to remember that if they're anywhere near the end zone, they're going to do that QB sneak where they're just pushing Jalen Hurts in the back. This team doesn't throw to the running back, and it's by design. Nick Sirianni was the one with the same group of guys that Doug Peterson threw 40 screens to the running backs. He threw 11 last year, same exact guys. So it's by design that they don't really like throwing to the running back. They don't like using the running back in the red zone. So, and that's why they let Miles Sanders leave for all that money and just put together this island of misfit toys they have. So Gainwell was the one that looked exciting this week. If there's no Gainwell, I don't care.
Yeah, I am in agreement there. Wow, you looked up fantasy football on Twitch. We were the first one in the searches. I love that.
Shout out Twitch, dude.
Love that. Shout out there. Twitch SEO, everybody. Twitch SEO.
Hell yeah.
Corrupted TV. Great to have you.
Let's go, dude.
Let's go. All right. Other news. Well, we already touched on. Well, here we go. With Greg Dulcich having the MRI, he's expected to miss multiple weeks here. A tight end that we kind of eyeballed, I believe it was a year or two ago, was Adam Troutman. And what did Lombardi and Sean Payton do? They grabbed Adam Troutman from New Orleans. They brought him there into Denver. I don't even know if Albert O is still with the team. So
the Eagles.
He's humping it on the Eagles team. That jeez. So is Adam Troutman somebody that we want to kind of keep an eyeball on? Greg Dulcich was supposed to be in that Joker role. I got to go to the tight end whisperer first.
Yeah, the problem with Troutman is that we hoped because he was one of those guys that he went to like Dayton. So he's had a bunch of, stats in college, but it was against who cares. And then when he came to the league, he kind of skewed blocking. So I'm not sure he converts right now from a blocking tight end into some monster producer. For me, if I'm going to go anywhere on the tight end waiver wire, if I have to start the guy this week, I'm going for Hunter Henry or Hayden Hurst. If I'm going to stash the highest upside play, the guy I like is Luke Musgrave. And the reason I like him so much is that I thought he was going to get vaporized by Eddie Jackson this week, and Jackson kept him pretty bottled up. And the Bears secondary, the rest of it isn't good, so the wide receiver's in a better spot. This guy was, if Jordan Love made a slightly better throw to him where he didn't have to, fall down trying to catch the ball, he could have easily been the tight end 1 on the week. Go back and watch the highlight. He got himself wide open on multiple occasions. One time was completely missed. Another time the ball got to him and he had to kind of make an effort to catch it and didn't score because of it. But if he can do that against a team that was top 5 against the tight end last year with a guy like Eddie Jackson, then he can be a guy. And this guy went out and played a massive snap share and played like 16 snaps at wide receiver too. So Luke Musgrave is, everyone already has Laporte and Kincaid. So I'm stashing a little Musgrave. I'm feeling a little good about it.
Yeah, Troutman's not a 1-for-1 replacement for Dulcich. He's caught 60 passes in 3 years in the league. Like, this guy is not a pass catching guy. They're going to go elsewhere to either P. Ryan. Hopefully, Jerry Jeudy comes back. That's going to eat into it a lot. I'm with you, Coop. There's way too many better options out there on the waiver than just doing a 1-for-1 with Troutman.
If Judy's out, though, I could be sold on a little Troutman DFS play, Howard. I don't know. That could be a little dark. That could be a little dartboard. It is different because that's the thing is we want to stash guys now like Hayden Hurst, Hunter Henry, and Luke Musgrave. They don't need you don't necessarily need a guys to stay off the field, right, for them to be good. But for Troutman, you need Jerry Jeudy to stay away.
Speaking of DFS, by the way, I mean, might as well just kind of throw a little plug here. If you are a DFS player and you don't subscribe to Fantasy Alarm, go to fantasyalarm.com/win. You start off with a 7-day free trial. Perfect. Because what you're going to do then is you're going to enjoy that 7 free days. You're going to make some money playing DFS. And then you're going to be like, yeah, I need to keep this going all season long. For the record, the optimal lineup, the best lineup that came from the DFS playbook right now. Are you ready for this one here? I'll just give it to you. On DraftKings, it was Tua, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, Evan Engram, Romeo Doubs, and the Atlanta Falcons defense. That was good for 223.4 DK points. That was sadly a 1.5 shy of what won the Millie Maker, but you would have came in second place and you would have ended up with $200,000, which anybody who's thumbing their nose at $200,000, you don't belong here watching this stream anyway. On the FanDuel side, Tua, Bijan, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, Ridley, Ayuk, Evan Engram, Romeo Doubs, and the Atlanta Falcons. The exact same lineup worked right there on FanDuel as well. 195.1. That was good to finish in first place for the Sunday Million by a significant margin. That was like a 12.5 point margin that you would have won. Now, I threw out some example lineups over there. The cash lineup examples that I said, all cashed. 2 for FanDuel, 2 for DraftKings. Easy peasy. Had a GPP lineup that had like 165 DraftKings points, which again, nice and cashing. So if you are a DFS player, we've got the tools, we've got the research, we've got the analysts, and you get that playbook every single week. FantasyAlarm.com/win. Make some money doing that. Back to the waiver wire here. A little question here in the chat. Best waiver replacement for Dobbins in the FFPC. How much of a believer are we in Puka Nacua? So if we've gone through the Mile High Luke botanical extractions, that has me a little intrigued. I'm not going to lie. Maybe somebody should have given that to Aaron Rodgers last night instead of the toad venom that he drank clearly before the game started.
He must be talking about maple syrup, Howard.
Of course he is.
Definitely.
I mean, listen, best waiver replacement for Dobbins in the FFPC. If you need that running back, we've talked about it. I think we ranked Joshua Kelly as the first guy. We like Gus Edwards over Justice Hill. Kyron Williams we can throw in there, but I think we're all in on the Joshua Kelly situation given that. Now the question is Puka Nacua. Because Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell, obviously great fun things to say. 119 receiving yards for each of them. Puka saw 15 targets. Now we know that when Cooper Kupp does come back, he's going to glom all the targets. That doesn't mean that either Nacua or Atwell or even Jefferson for that matter, is going to vanish into thin air. I think a lot is going to hinge on what kind of a relationship Stafford has with these guys moving forward over the next couple of weeks. Van Jefferson doesn't impress anybody, and he certainly didn't impress anybody in week 1. And it was, whether it was a coverage thing or it was just a rapport that Matthew Stafford developed, but he liked Atwell and he liked Puka Nacua a whole lot more here. So we'll start with Britt, since she's the waiver wire goddess of the fantasy alarm. What do you think, Britt? Break down these Rams receivers.
I like Puka a lot, and it was so annoying that everybody was talking about Van Jefferson being the wide receiver 1 on the depth chart, and then it became Puka Nacua. I think I wrote in the article that he said, "Hold my beer." I'm the wide receiver 1, but the situation with Puka, I'm not decided on it, because yes, when Cooper Kupp comes back, I need to know, are they going to find different alignments for him, or is he just going to become a bench guy again? Was he that 1-for-1 replacement? But Kevin Tompkins made a great point in the Lightning Round show, saying that the genie's out of the bottle and you can't put it back in. I think with this type of performance that they're going to have to find a way to get him involved even when Kupp comes back.
I've had my feelings hurt before on this one. And Britt, let me know if this name rings a bell. Our sweet boy, Greg Dortch. I believe you're a Greg Dortch fan. Remember, he came out and was getting a ton of targets playing the Rondale Moore role. And then when Rondale Moore came back, they just said, all right, Greg, thank you for filling in. I do worry about that. But for the time being, I'll put it this way. There's not anyone I'm adding over him, because 15 targets is 15 targets. Just know that there's a possibility that just recognize that week that Cooper Kupp comes back is a massive week. And if Puka Nacua goes to the bench, then you just got to drop him. But for now, doesn't get more exciting, right? 15 targets. 15.
And I think that they were talking about potentially Cooper Kupp remaining on the IR for longer than the 4 weeks, that he's seen multiple specialists around the country. Mm-hmm. So in that case, then you've got him for way longer than the next 3 weeks. And he is worth a bit of an ad and a bit of a drop in fab as well.
Do you guys have any Cooper Kupp? I have none.
I actually don't think I have any. No.
Yeah. I think it was like company policy on that one. So
it's in our contract.
Given out
do. It's funny though. We do have some of those when, like, Jordan Addison scored that touchdown and Kevin Tompkins texted me. He's like, yes. I'm like, dude, that's all of us. That's the entire company that has Addison, right? Sutton when he scored. So you got the company players,
Yeah, we got certain guys. You guys can check out our flag plants video that we did here on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page. Just scroll through the videos, find the flag plants. We have a number of those who looking good. Ann asks, are you worried about the Miami backs, or was it in the game script that Ahmed didn't get much work? I really wasn't planning on Salvan Ahmed getting much work anyway here. We know that Mike McDaniel favors Raheem Mostert. Devin A-Chain, he'll be back next week. He'll serve in a complimentary role. I feel like Ahmed has only gotten any kind of a push because of the A-Chain injury and the fact that they didn't sign anybody, but I can't really get behind Ahmed here. I think this is Mostert's backfield. How about you guys?
Yeah,
for sure.
Same. And I'm actually surprised that the Dolphins didn't run the ball more to keep the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands.
Yeah.
I was very shocked that they didn't exploit that very soft run defense. It didn't make any sense to me. But no, I'm not worried.
When I watched that game, like, the thing about that game though is that Tyreek Hill was just on another planet. Like, he's just so much faster than everybody. It's not
How
fair.
many times do you run that crossing route that nobody covered him?
He doesn't. The thing is, he doesn't slow down much when he catches it, and when he does, he's just gone. Like, and that was another one, Howard, the playbook one for us. I mean, on our show in the morning, I don't think we even gave another wide receiver. We were like, build everything around this guy. But I think that could be why, is that sometimes you just have a guy that's having a day like that, and you just throw him the ball 15 times. Right. So I think that was it. And I think there's going to be better days for Raheem Mostert, especially got to be pumped with the snap share, right? 50
You got to be
snaps.
pumped with the snap share. Got to be pumped with the fact that you probably drafted him in the 10th round too, huh?
Let's go.
So good. So good. I love a good bargain. I do.
No zero RB propaganda here.
Listen, I was loading. That's the funny thing is that I was like, I went bully RB, and then still sitting there in like the 10th, 11th round, you were like, you all were still handing me Raheem Mostert. I'll say this, my biggest draft regret, because we were talking about that earlier. I think I'm not, I think like we talked about this a while ago. But in a recent FFPC main event draft that I did last Wednesday, Wednesday before the season started, was that I ended up double tapping the tight end in rounds 9 and 10, right? And just went Dalton Schultz, Sam Laporta, because I figured Laporta wasn't coming back to me. And then about, 6-7 picks later, somebody took Raheem Mostert, and I was like, balls. I can't believe I missed Mostert being available at that point. Probably, I feel like that could be just a mini regret, not a major regret, but a mini regret.
Dude, I have a huge regret in one league, and John's actually in this league, John and Pemba, where this is one where you have to look at and know the ADP for your league. Is that for some reason on this platform, Tua was going so late, and I took Geno Smith because I just looked at it, I was like, oh, next quarterback available is Geno Smith, and I took Geno, and then like 3 picks later, someone took Tua, and I was like, wait a second, Tua was still there? I have Tua ranked miles ahead.
Miles ahead.
Oh my God. And this weekend I was dying because I'm looking at it and I was like, dude, Tua should be my quarterback. Dude, and here's the craziest part, Howard. I had Tyreek Hill on that team. So you have a mini regret? That's a massive regret. Oh,
Britt, you want to meet us in the middle with like a mid-level, like how about a mid-sized regret?
Drafting a quarterback.
And you're not allowed to say sellers because you got to be nice to them.
Drafting a quarter. See if you can find one that's not as bad as drafting a quarterback over a quarterback you like better to avoid the stack that would have been the best possible play this week.
The best possible.
You have anything like that?
Mine's not so much a regret as it is just unfortunate, but I have so much Aaron Rodgers in Superflex and in Best Ball.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
I drank that stupid Kool-Aid.
I know. It feels like somebody ripped out my heart and stomped on it.
You know, I'll tell you what was even more brutal about that, because there's a lot of brutality that goes with it. And yes, I drank the Kool-Aid and dealing with Aaron Rodgers, but then it was like everybody sending me all the tweets and all the messaging and stuff like that. If one more person sent me a copy of the tweet of some rando dude being like, Aaron Rodgers is 2.5 hours away from tearing his Achilles on the wet turf at MetLife Stadium.
That was insane.
I was like, what? Yeah. I mean, is it insane, or is it just, it's a statement that you make that if it doesn't happen, then you're in oblivion and nobody gives a shit what you said. Or, if you just happen to be right about that. I mean, sun shines on a dog's ass at least once, but damn, like every single one of those messages and everything like that. Like, I don't know how you guys fare. This is something I'm actually going to bring up on the Fantasy Alarm Show with Jim Bowden. But like, how are you guys as far as like, something bad happens to a friend's team? For example, I'm a diehard Jets fan. Everybody knows it. All right. I'm not happy about Aaron Rodgers going down in the first series. I'm not. I've already tweeted out it's like 1999 all over again when it happened to Vinny Testaverde. Like, why are you blowing up my phone with messages about it? Like, I don't even care if you're saying, oh, sorry that happened to you, dude. Just leave me alone during the game. Like, I mean, am I wrong to think that that's just proper etiquette, that if you know somebody like that, you don't have to like sit there and like hammer the point home, do you?
My answer to that question is which friend? That's my answer to that, because I got friends that I would never do that to, like you, Howard, and then I have friends that 100% would do that to me, and it's almost my duty to reach out to them and twist the knife. So that's my answer to that one. What do you say, Britt?
It drives me crazy. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to talk. I want to process it in my own way and by myself. And I don't need you to remind me how bad it is, because I already know.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
assume that I'm in my own personal darkness retreat.
Yeah.
the part
Exactly.
that sucks the worst, Howard, is how long did you resist drinking that Kool-Aid? You resisted it for quite some time, and then right towards the end there, you started taking sips just in time.
Oh, dude, listen, 100%, and I 100% blame Lisa Ann. Lisa Ann, if you're watching right now, and listen, we're gonna do our show tomorrow night, but I 100% blame you for this because you're the one who told me I gotta watch Hard Knocks,
Yeah.
and I did, and there you go. And I had like that green like Kool-Aid mustache, like that juice mustache that kids get, right? And it was green for so long, and now it's just sadness.
Dude,
Sadness.
I just picture Howard watching the game last night, just juice all over his face, and then the juice box just drops to the ground. Right? Just
It was not pleasant. I was better about it, right? Because as a Jets fan, you learn to just accept that this is what's going to happen. We just can't have nice things. Um, you know, I was waiting for my wife to say anything to me about it, just so I could be like, you know what? At least we have the excuse that if we lose this game, we have the excuse that we lost our starting quarterback. The fucking Cowboys beat the shit out of the Giants in the worst way, and you had everybody on your team healthy and available. Well, maybe Darren Waller's Cheeto-like hamstring was a little shaky, but all right. Well, we got a couple of minutes here before we want to wrap it up. I want to make sure that we jump in. Of course, check out Britt's waiver wire article. I'm sure Coop's going to be putting something together as far as helping you guys out with the tight ends and making sure that you see that. Obviously, here Ann Dunn wants to know if we're holding Chig or is he droppable?
Yeah, he's droppable. So today I have the I know we're focused on the waivers today, but for the people that were in here asking about start sits, the week 2 rankings, the initial rankings, we just have to have Matt Sell's going to set those live within probably 15 minutes of this show. So those will be up for anybody looking for the week 2 rankings. And I am putting up my tight end article, which is just got to put a couple fine tuning on it, but that will be up within the next hour as well. So you'll get all that coming up now. But yeah, anybody looking for start sits, those rankings are up now. And of course, in the Discord, ask the questions in the chat there. You can get all those. So we're ready to rock and roll.
All right, Britt, Cameron B wants to know, is Drake London going into lineups for week 2? Is Elijah Moore, Zay Jones a better option? Why are we panicking on Drake London right now, Britt?
Yeah, I think just because of the Falcons offense as a whole. But I would say that Zay Jones may be a better play just because of the efficiency of the offense. But as far as like dropping him, no, don't drop him.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, the fact that they came out, we said they couldn't possibly throw less this year, and then they came out and threw 18 times this week.
The game script didn't warrant it.
I
mean,
know.
why? Like you were beating the snot out of Carolina. That's what people you have to understand. Look at the situation. Atlanta had this game in hand the entire time. There was no reason to throw the ball. There was no reason to make any mistakes. If you've got Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier both running rampant over the Carolina D, why throw the ball? Chew up the clock, take the win. That's what Arthur Smith is all about. So there will be game scripts where the Falcons will have problems and we'll have to throw it more. I think that's something that you just need to watch, need to pay attention. Who the Falcons play this week? Who the Falcons take on? Oh, Green Bay. That right there could end up being a little bit more of a shootout here. And so Drake London becomes an intriguing option. Jair Alexander, we'll talk about that matchup, but nevertheless, Get in the Game says you can come to the dark side. Listen up, Tommy. You listen to me right now. Why don't you focus on making the Better Cast more awesome than it already was last night? All right. And don't worry about my team allegiances. And for those of you who don't know, the Better Cast app kicks ass. Free download. Go to bettercast.app. All right, check it out in your, your Google Play Store. If you have an Android, your iPhone, App Store, whatever it is, Bettercast, BETTORCAST. We were having a blast. Well, I mean, everybody was having a blast. I was sitting there miserable, listening to everybody talk about putting a wellness check on me. But nevertheless, it's free download. You're answering questions like throughout the entire game. You're building up points, and you're going to be able to take those points, and you're going to be able, those tickets that you win, and you're going to be able to redeem them for free stuff, autographed sports memorabilia, things like that we have going on over there. And here's the best part, 100% free. It's a free download. You don't even need a Fantasy Alarm subscription in order to sit there in the Better Cast and win tickets. So I can't stress it enough. We're going to be hanging out there. I'm there every primetime game. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. Hang out in the chat. We'll have fun on games that Aaron Rodgers doesn't tear his Achilles tendon for. Right?
Yep. That app is awesome, man. And you can win. I mean, Fanatics owns everything now. So a Fanatics gift card can get you anything in the sports world, right?
Yeah, it really can.
Like they bought everything.
Really can. Adam Bernard and I were at a sports memorabilia place in Vegas. There was one right there next to Planet Hollywood. Some good shit there, and we're gonna be able to. It's all Fanatic stuff, so we're gonna be able to tap you into that. So the Bettercast app. All right, let's see. We've talked about what content you guys have coming out. I'll have the DFS watch list out later on today as well. Coop's got full rankings for week 2. Britt's got waiver wire stuff. Kevin Tompkins has target stuff going already. So we are already full steam ahead for week number 2. You don't want to miss it. FantasyAlarm.com/win. That gets you that subscription over at Fantasy Alarm. And I mean, again, a 7-day free trial. Win money for nothing right now, and then use that money to pay for your subscription. You'll be extremely happy that you did. But that's going to do it for us here on Alarm Fantasy Football. Any final thoughts, final comments, kids?
I just hope that everybody gets who they want on waivers and don't spend an arm and a leg.
Yeah, maybe don't get anybody and wait for some better players.
I like it. I like it a lot, right? I mean, listen, you know that there's going to be better players on waivers in the coming weeks, so don't blow your entire fab budget right now. Don't make a move unless you absolutely need to make a move. There's nobody out there right now that's blowing the doors off of anybody. So be smart.
The best player on waivers might be somebody that gets dropped this week. That's often how it happens. So next, you could want to drop the bag on somebody that gets dropped by a guy giving up too early. So keep your eye out for that move too.
The best waiver wire move might just be the one you don't make. That's going to do it for us here on Alarm Fantasy Football. Big thank you to Ernie Acosta, our producer. For Britt, Flynn, Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Alarm Fantasy Football. We'll catch you next time.